All right, so we're going to be dealing with the teachings of the Asar Set Society, right? Which is a modern day Kemetic society, or brothers and sisters that practice the teachings of ancient Kemet, as it has been passed down to today, as taught by Shechem or Shechem. Hopefully, after watching this, you will have a greater understanding of what it is that is taught and promoted within this African-based spiritual system. Now, so the teachings of the Auset society revolve heavily around the Paltnataru, or the Tree of Life, or the Ennead, or the Pesjet. So we'll discuss that a little more later on. Oh, all right. Now, right here, if we look, it says he wrote meditation, his earliest works, before he started doing all these other works. His earliest work was meditation techniques of Kabbalists, Vedantins, and Taoists. And then when you look at the realization, when you read the realization of Neternu, you see that there's Kabbalistic concepts inside of it, especially when you read the introduction, in which you see that Shechem or Shechem was at one point associated with the Rosicrucian Society. I don't know if he was the head or whatever. I just know that, in the introduction in his work, he says to write to him as the anthroposophic, theosophical Rosicrucian Society. Right. So, but the general teaching of the society is based around the Paltnataru, or the Tree of Life, right? And or this is, the company of gods. And it is a diagrammatic way, a paradigm of understanding aspects of creation. It is simply one paradigm, however. It is not the ultimate be-all of all paradigms. However, it is a very effective and efficient paradigm, and it does work in reference to spiritual development and conscious cultivation. So, and it has its roots in ancient Kemetic philosophy. This is the Ennead of Heliopolis. This Ennead is in the boat of Ra. So a lot of times you'll find in Kemetic philosophy, the Ennead is inside the boat of Ra, or called the company of gods. In this particular Ennead, you have Ra, you have Tahuti, you have Heru, you have Tahuti, you have Ra in the center. Then you have Auset, I think that is, and Sekhmet, and I don't know who the last one is in the boat. Just being honest with you. And so, and it's just very well known. Now here, this was the Ennead of Anu, or Heliopolis, right? So this is the famous Atum, who arose out of Nun as a heel, and then Shu and Tefnut. He spit forth Shu and spit forth Tefnut, who then gave birth to Geb and Nut, whose children was Asar, Aset, Set, and Nebetet, right? This is the great company of gods of Anu. However, it's not the only company of gods. This is also the company of gods from the Shabaka stone, known as the Ogdod, right? This was Huhet, Kuhuhet, Nununet, and Amenet, right? And this was a company of gods as well, which was different, of course, than the previous company. But this is like, don't look at it as absolutes as much as like approaches to spiritual cultivation and development. It's like in the modern West, we know of only the 7 chakra system, but there are other chakra systems, and there are other chakras within the tantric system. You understand? And so, like, as we know, the popular system is the 7, brought forth in the Western society by Sir Arthur Woodrow in The Serpent Power back in the 1920s. And that particular 7 chakra system was cultivated and developed and promoted in the 1500s by a particular Indian guru. However, there are other chakras which Shechem brought forth in Kundalini Yoga when he talked about the Guru chakra, the Bindu chakra, the Harit chakra, what is the, let's see, the Guru, Harit, the Bindu, and a few others. You know, don't get me on that. I don't have it completely memorized yet. But there are other chakra systems that other, tantrics use. Just like there are, and these are just methods and pathways of cultivation. You understand? It's not just one method in one way. But this is particularly important. The oak dot is particularly important, especially as it relates to the development and cultivation of the tree of life and its continuation and being passed. Another time we'll get into the arguments of early Christianity. But in early Christianity, oak dot was a constant concept that was discussed in Gnostic Christianity. As a matter of fact, it is introduced with the Gospel of John, verses 1 through 20, and was heavily promoted by one of the earlier Gnostic systems taught by Valentinius. But Valentinius isn't the only Gnostic, because if we look, we can also see this is the Gnostic system of Simon Magus, the Simon Magus that was taught about in Acts. And we know this is the Gnostic system because we read Justin, I think it was Justin Martyr, his book Against Heresies. Whoever wrote Against Heresies, whoever wrote the book Against Heresies, I got to remember that at the moment. But in that book, he describes and discusses the systems, and he lays out the system of Simon Magus, who he says the majority of Samaritans followed this particular paradigm. And this is an emanationist philosophy. Like the tree of life is an emanationist philosophy. You have to understand that. And so we look at the cosmo-conception of Justin Martyr, and we can see the cosmo-conception of early, Gnostic Christians, right? So it's clear, it's very clear that the evolution of the Asar, of the tree of life, comes out of the remnants of the Judaic systems that took from Kemet and took from other spaces and encoded it inside the esoteric traditions in the West, right? So, like I said, at one point, there was an association with the Rosicrucian Society. This can be ascertained from reading the introduction of his earlier book, The Realization of Netra Nu, written in 1975. I already went through the Hebrews and inherited the esoteric traditions. And so that's part one. We will go over other parts later, but that's just to give you an introduction. And then in the next part, I'll discuss what the tree of life is. It would be unfair to really talk about this and not really to discuss some of the other accomplishments. I know in the 1980s, 1984, I think the king of Ghana, the literal king of Ghana, came to America and gave Shechem or Shechem a kingship, which means Shechem or Shechem. It's not like what we have today is Jabari was made, Jabari Osaze, blessings and respect due, was made a king in Ghana, right? By another king, right? Shechem or Shechem was given the ability to make kings, right? By the king of Ghana, right? So in Ghanaian kingship is much like governorship, so to speak. It's a very honorable title, but there are a lot of different kings inside Ghana, right? And a king is a person, a man or woman actually, who has the responsibility of governing and ruling a particular area within the kingdom, So it's not like he's the king of the entire country. The king of the entire country, of course, is the Asante Hene. However, Shechem or Shechem was made a king that can make other kings. And then there's a literal African-based kingship system within America. And that is a beautiful thing. And that is a very powerful statement. And it's a very edifying, statement, a very edifying act to know that there is a deep connection to ancestral legacy, within the Asar Aset society. One thing that one barometer to measure your righteousness are the truthfulness of the path that you are walking is confirmation outside of self. Like the ancestors will confirm your spiritual walk. And thus far, the ancestors have confirmed the spiritual walk of the Asar Set society. And so it would be remiss of me not to mention that great accomplishment there. But please join me for part 2 as we discuss some of the teachings within Asar Set society, taking it from, Meta Netter Volume 1 as much as I can. I'm not a professional in relationship to this. I'm not necessarily 100% initiated inside this society, and I know only what I know.